whatever you have it available. And we're going to start standing up with those tennis balls. So I'm using my foam roller to help me balance. You might have a chair, a wall, or somebody who looks sturdy nearby. And you're going to start by stepping all over those tennis balls. You got something to help you balance. You can do both feet at the same time. So good evening. Welcome to Foam Rollers and Tennis Balls. Stepping all over those tennis balls. You're going to kind of shuffle forward, shuffle back. Get those tennis balls to roll all the way from your toes to your heels and back again. And then when you find a sore spot, settle into it, settle onto it, and breathe. And maybe start shifting your weight side to side, bending one knee, then the other. We're doing a cross fiber, deep tissue massage, twanging across that tight spot. And after 2 or 3 or 4 breaths at that particular spot, you might seek and destroy another one. So constantly repositioning, shuffling around, exploring the inside edges of your feet, the outside edges of your feet, the toes, the heels, the balls of your feet, seeking out sore spots, settling into them, doing your best to breathe. Emphasize the exhale. When you exhale, you blow out carbon dioxide, which is acidic, just like your tight muscles. All your sore spots tend to be acidic. They might have lactic acid in them or cellular debris you want to blow out, get rid of, help reduce that tension, that soreness. And then make your way back so that your toes embrace the ball. Let your toes wrap around the balls. So your toes are flared, spread out and arching over the balls, almost like you're trying to pick the balls up with your toes, and then squeeze the balls with your toes. Make foot fists, grab those balls and release. And squeeze and release. And keep working it. Squeeze, make foot fists, and then flare your toes. Squeeze, make foot fists, and flare your toes. And maybe shuffle around a little bit, find a slightly different spot in the balls of your feet. Again, make foot fists and flare your toes. Foot fists and flare. Going for 3 or 4 of these in any given spot, and then finding a slightly different spot, maybe closer towards the pinky toes or closer towards the big toes, finding a slightly different spot to embrace and squeeze and release. And then working into the arches of your feet. And you might start to waggle from side to side. Roll from the inside edge to the outside edge of each foot. Again, I recommend having a touch point for balance so that you don't fall over. Also helps to keep your knees slightly bent, so you can control this. And waggle from the inside edge to the outside edge of each foot. And working into a slightly different spot, maybe closer to the heels, but still in the arch, depending on how big your feet are. Still in the arch, but closer to the heels, and maybe you start to waggle your heels side to side, the feet side to side. I've been thinking lately that maybe I should buy a Bosu or one of those inflatable rubber saucer things to give my ankles and feet a little bit more of a workout, since we're not going to the gym anymore. And then get those heels up onto the tennis balls I'm going to turn sideways. You keep oriented towards the screen so you can see what's going on. The balls are underneath your heels. Toes are down. And as best you can, swing it from side to side. Inside edge to outside edge. Again, especially if you're extra bendy, you tend to have loose ligaments, loose joints. If you tend to roll your ankles, do make sure you are in control. Have something to stabilize, balance on. And then coming off those balls. Holding onto something for balance, you're going to bend both knees, flip the toes of one of those feet backwards, and press down on the top side of the foot. You are in charge of how much pressure you put on that foot, how intense that toe stretch is. Toes curled under, stretching the top side of the foot. And then both knees unlocked, kind of wiggle, waggle. I'll show you what that looks like from the front, kind of wiggling and waggling. And then do the other foot. Toes curled under, wiggling and waggling. All right, we're going to be making our way down to the ground and working our way up the legs. So I'm going to give you the modification if you do not have a foam roller. If you do have a foam roller, you don't have to bother with what I'm going to show you now. But if you do not have a foam roller, you've got 2 blocks, stack of textbooks, something, and you're going to kneel in front of it and set the necks of your toes on the edges of those blocks or whatever you're using. And you can sit back on it. This will give you a stretch down the top side of the foot. You can also do this with tennis balls. The tennis balls can be used instead of the bricks. They're a little bit more wobbly, a little harder to control, a little harder to place, but it is possible. You can do that and sit down on it. If you have a foam roller, you can do the same thing with a foam roller. What's nice with a foam roller is you get a little bit more hang. A little bit more stretch is possible, depending on how ballerina your ballerina feet are. Also, foam rolling, kneeling, you can shift your weight forward, take some of the pressure off, or shift your weight backward, sit down on it, and do your best to keep on breathing. Shoulders back, chest lifted, breathing, making it look good. Smiling, just in case anybody walks by and has a look at what you're doing. Also on the foam roller, you can kind of shift from side to side. Really get the front of the ankle joint to yawn open. And then bail out of that one. Of course, after that, a downward facing dog is probably going to feel pretty darn good. So I'm going to encourage you to orient yourself so that you don't have to turn your head sideways to look at the screen. You don't want to strain your neck. Always try orienting yourself so you're looking at the screen. You might not necessarily be turned sideways when I'm turned sideways. So taking that happy dog for a walk, pedaling your feet, getting the blood flowing down into those feet, the ankles, their toes, your calves, the backs of your legs, because we're going to get into the backs of the legs a little bit more right about now. So you're going to step forward, have a seat on your butt, and have your legs out in front. Again, this is one where you might want your toes pointing towards the screen. I'm just turning sideways again so you can see what's going on. If you do not have a foam roller, you have a block, put a block down, you can put a ball on top of it, and then you can put your calf on top of it. So I have a ball on top of a block underneath my calf. You could probably do it without the block, It's up to you. So you can do tennis balls. For some of you, you might like that tennis ball sensation. Or foam roller. Foam roller, I think, is a little gentler than tennis balls. I guess depending on your foam roller, depending on your tennis balls. But if you have the foam roller, you can do both legs at the same time. You're going to roll from knee pitch to heel. And you can do that with your feet flexed, your feet pointed. You can roll your ankles around. And turn out like a ballerina. Turn in like the opposite of ballerina. Play with it. So foam roller, I think, is probably a little gentler, a little softer, a little nicer. It's easier to really flail your legs around. But if you like deep tissue, shiatsu-like acupressure, tennis balls on top of yoga blocks, and you can play with that one. Do your best to sit up tall, make it look good. This is why you do not take your painkiller right before exercising. You want to know when you're giving yourself a bruise and when to take it easy on yourself. So don't give yourself bruises unless you're into that kind of thing. So really beating up those calves. And then I'm going to work into the shins. Now, my friend whose knees do not like to bend very much, you can just take a tennis ball in each hand, and you can kind of give yourself a little massage there, working along those shin splints muscles, just outside your shin bones. That's probably a nice version. You want the not so nice version, and bending your knees works for you. You can come up onto that foam roller and roll from knee to ankle, up and down those shins, up and down those shin splint muscles. You'll notice that I'm doing my best to keep my belly lifted, not just because I'm on camera, but because I also want to protect my back. So keep your belly lifted, your back arched like you're a Halloween cat, so that you don't crunch your lower back. And it's a bit of an ab challenge. You can also settle in anywhere you find a sore spot, wiggle around on it. And then from here, you guessed it, it's downward facing dog time. So again, you can bottoms up, come into that downward facing dog. Or if down dog is a little much for your hands and your shoulders and you want to limit the amount of down dogs you do tonight, you can do one of these, a quadruped. Stretch one leg back, pressing hard through the heel. Stretching the other leg back, pressing hard through the heel. If you're doing down dog, I challenge you to come up on the fingertips. If you're on hands and knees, I challenge you to come up on the fingertips. Take some of the weight out of those wrists. So a down dog on fingertips is great for strengthening up those forearm muscles. And then come on down. We're going to work into the backs of the legs. So you got a foam roller, and you're going to sit on it. If you do not have a foam roller, you can sit on tennis balls, if that's your thing. And if you're going to sit on tennis balls, take 2 blocks in what I call butt cheek configuration. So you've got 1 block for each cheek. You're going to sit on those first, and then get in there with the tennis balls. And those tennis balls would tuck right into those sit bones. Do your best to settle down onto that. If you're sitting on those tennis balls, and those tennis balls are right at where the bathing suit is supposed to stay but never does, right up there at the gluteal fold at the top of your thigh at the bottom of your butt cheek. That's where those tennis balls want to be. And you want to feel those tennis balls eventually start to make contact with your sit bones. If you have a foam roller, you're sitting on the foam roller. The foam roller is underneath your sit bones. And everybody has their legs out in front. Foam roller is a little nicer than tennis balls, I guess, depending on your tennis balls or your foam roller. Foam roller lets you also kind of shift your weight a little bit more from side to side, and it allows you to kind of wiggle. Do the best you can on tennis balls. They might scooch out and around, but we make do. You just really want to work all the meat away from the sit bones. Tenderize that rump roast tonight. So the hamstring muscles that run up and down the backs of your thighs connect onto those sit bones, and you are massaging those hamstring muscle attachments so that when you start to work down into the hamstring, it's more likely to relax. And with that said, you're gonna do your best to sit up nice and tall, reach back there, lift and separate, really get as much contact between tennis ball and sit bone, or sit bone and foam roller, whatever you are sitting on, and everybody's elevated on some sort of height. If you're using tennis balls, I recommend tennis balls on top of blocks. You want to be elevated so that your pelvis tips forward. You dump your belly out onto your lap so that your booty sticks out behind you. And as you advance your chest forward, keep flexed, you maybe one day put your tummy on your thighs. If you're not touching, it's because your tummy's not big enough. And breathe. So it'd be tummy touching first, and then your chest, and then your head. So as you hinge forward, you're trying to keep that flat back. You see my spine right there? As flat a back as possible, as perky a backside as possible. And you're trying to breathe as much as possible. And then slowly ease on up. All right. And you can give it one last little wiggle. It's gonna feel like there's a flat spot. Oh. Flat spot on those sit bones. And then you're gonna roll over onto your side. I recommend rolling over onto your side so that you can look at the camera. Give me your best swimsuit edition pose. Have that foam roller underneath the side hip pocket. Now, if you do not have a foam roller, you can try a tennis ball if you're into that kind of thing. It will be quite intense on that spot. If all you have are tennis balls, you can wrap that tennis ball up in a towel, make it a little bigger, a little softer, and wedge it in underneath your hip. You might even make do with a soft yoga block wrapped in a towel. You just want a hump, a round surface underneath that side hip pocket. So if you were to do a foamy yoga brick, you can put that foamy yoga brick in that side hip pocket and do your best to breathe. Okay. So foamy brick, and then you rock tummy down, tummy up, or if you're on the foam roller, same thing, belly button down, belly button up. Notice my top leg, I'm using it as a kickstand. Top foot can be in front or in back, however you want to work that kickstand. Do make sure that your elbow is directly beneath your shoulder is shrugged down away from your ear. A nice long neck, no slouching. Okay. Chest down, chest up. Do your best to breathe. So this is helping to release the tensa fascia lata, the side hip muscle. And it's also helping you to work those shoulder muscles, stabilizing that shoulder. You're less likely to dislocate it if you're one of those types. Keeping that shoulder girdle nice and strong help prevent you from popping out of socket. And then we're going to continue. We're going to move this whole situation down the leg, or move your whole situation up the roller, so that that foam roller ends up just below your short shorts, the upper third of the thigh. If you stack your legs, it's much more intense. If you have a kickstand, it's a little less intense. Kickstand in front or kickstand in back. Again, be mindful of what you're doing here with the shoulder. The elbow's directly underneath the shoulder, shoulders down away from your ears. You're doing your best to breathe. As you tip belly down, belly up. And then move along halfway between the knee and the hip. At one point or another, you might decide to lift your torso up a little bit higher, put more weight onto that leg, or not. You might end up down here, taking a lot of weight off. Choose your own adventure. Try to control whatever you're doing. And consider some of that cross fiber massage, rolling from front to back. And then reposition one last time, just above the knee. There's my knees. So I'm just above the knees. I'm on the lower third of the thigh. And you can play around with kicking and curling. Do rock tummy down, tummy up. Again, I'm resting down on the floor here, but if you wanted more intensity, if you were a Pilates master, you'd be up here balancing, putting lots of weight on it, doing your best to control it, really stabilizing with that bottom shoulder, keeping your tummy lifted, doing your best to make it look pleasant, breathing. And then release. The good news is you only have 2 legs. If you were a spider, you would be here all night. Bad news is you got to do the other side. So, again, you got options. You can have tennis ball wrapped in a beach towel underneath this hip. You can have the edge of a foamy yoga block underneath that side hip pocket, or you can be on the foam roller. Again, shoulders back, chest lifted, and make it look good. Kickstand in front or in back, or kick it out, stack it up. And then you're gonna rock tummy down, tummy up. Really be mindful of the shoulder. Shoulder dragged down away from your ear, pressing down into that supporting elbow directly beneath the shoulder. And then move it along. So move the foam roller down or move your body up so the foam roller ends up just below the top, the short shorts, just the top third of the thigh. Then choose your own adventure. Decide how heavy you're going to be tonight. And then move along halfway between the knee and the hip, middle half of the thigh. Playing around with it. Again, if you're up on your elbow, you've lifted your hip off the ground, it can be quite intense, but it is a good ab workout and a good shoulder thing. Keep those shoulders strong. And then eventually top, just above the knee, lower third of the thigh. And you can play around with kicking and curling as you rock tummy down, tummy up. So other things that can be used would be a solid core pool noodle. We used to make those. It's a smaller diameter, but it does similar work. Use a child's play ball, the kind you get at the bin at the CVS or the Dollar Tree. All right, and then you're going to come off. So lots of different things that you can press your body onto. And just take a moment to let the blood flow into the sides of your legs. Feel all that tissue tingling. And let's review. So you just started and you did the bottoms of your feet, you did the tops of your feet, and you did your ankles, did your shins, did the calves on the backs of the legs. We did the backs of the thighs, did the sides of the legs. Now we got to do the quadriceps, the front of the thighs, and maybe a little inner thighs, adductors. So quadriceps, tummy down. And that foam roller goes right across the pubic bone, right where the seatbelt should go, across your lap. Or tennis balls on top of blocks, maybe. That elevation helps you to round your back a little bit. So you're not getting too much of an arch in your lower back. So having your hips elevated, elbows beneath your shoulders helps take some of the strain off your back, especially if you have your feet down. Now, if you curl your toes under, press through your heels before you lift your knees up. Before you lift your knees up, lift your belly up. Even do a little pelvic thrust tilt, tucking your tail down between your legs, pressing your pubic bone against the foam roller, pressing the fronts of your hips into balls. And if that's not making you cry, then you power your legs nice and straight. Press back through your heels. Make sure those pinky toes are curled under as well. Shoulders down away from your ears. It's kind of like an elbow plank, like an easy cheater's plank. So this might be a way to practice beginner's plank pose. All you've ever done is plank pose with your knees down. You can try this. And then think about just lifting your belly up enough. Maybe hovering your hips just off those tennis balls, just off the foam roller. Hey, and then you just did like half a second of plank. Full plank. You can play around with that. Shoulders down away from your ears. Belly and heart lifted away from the ground. Pressing through your heels. Hard, 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 hard. And if you're liking that, pull that tummy in, drag your chest forward so the foam roller is underneath your thighs, and you can go back and forth. Foam roller fronts of your thighs. Kind of hard to roll up and down on tennis balls. So ways to modify, if you do not have a foam roller to massage the fronts of your thighs, you can come into like a side sit, like a mermaid, and reach back, grab one of those ankles, drag your heel in towards your butt, going for a quadricep stretch. And if you're doing this, you can play around with rocking it, heel up, heel down, getting different angles in that quadricep on the front of the thigh to stretch. If you're on the foam roller, you're going to rock it. You're going to wiggle and get different angles, different muscle fibers on those quadriceps. So do your best whale tail thing. Up and down your legs. Getting some abs and shoulders in. Why not? And if you're like me, you're going to find a sore spot. And you might hang out on that sore spot and wiggle around on that sore spot. If you're stretching one quadricep, sitting like a mermaid, switch sides, do the other one. Because we're halfway there on these quads. And then bail out. Okay. We're all going to come lying to lying down. And we all have a tennis ball. And we all hopefully have a pillow of some sort, couch cushion or a pillow from your bed. I've got this patio cushion. And I'm going to put my tennis ball down and my patio cushion on top of it. Whatever you're putting on top of that tennis ball should be padded, but thin enough that you can find the tennis ball. My tennis ball's right there. I can feel it. Because that is what I'm going to put directly underneath my pubic symphysis. That's where the two halves of the pelvis meet in the front of your body, below the bladder. It's that bony bit of pelvis below your bladder. So if this is making you pee, you're too high. This works on men and women. We all have this pubic symphysis. That is what you're going to put on top of that tennis ball. If you got back issues and you don't want to overarch your lower back, you might consider block tennis ball pillow. If you can keep that stable enough to put your pubic symphysis on that and not be falling off the edge. Okay? So you might consider a little bit more height. So if at first it doesn't feel good, it's not going to feel good. Find a slightly different height. Okay? And you do want this padded. I would not go at this without padding. And you'll notice I'm kind of wiggling my hips from side to side. I'm bearing a little weight on my elbows and a little weight on my knees. And massage across that pubic symphysis. Just got to get enough padding in there. This is not going to feel great. But it's a way of helping to release your lower back and hips. And after the fourth or fifth breath, it's not so bad. All right, from here, you're gonna back it up into a child's pose. So for child's pose, you bring your big toes together, put your elbows beneath your shoulders, pull your belly up, and elbow walk back to that child's pose. Knees wide. And you can stack your fists, one potato, two potato, put that third potato on top. And breathe into the back side of your pelvis. You could modify this with your legs stretched out. If your knees don't bend, you can sit on your butt, legs stretched out. But you might need to stack up a little bit more stuff for your head. You want to feel supported from head to toe, curled up in a ball. Elbows beneath your shoulders, shoulders away from your ears, pressing into, breathing into your low, low back. And then press your hands down into the ground. You're going to come on up, flip on over like a pancake and lie down. Have all your toys nearby. Foam roller. Foam roller people, you're going to sit up and stick that foam roller behind you like it's a tail. And you just kind of inchworm up on top of it. You want to have from tailbone to head bone on that foam roller. Now, if the foam roller isn't long enough, get your tailbone on the foam roller, put some blocks underneath your head and chest or whatever you need to support. Whatever's hanging off the foam roller, put it on some blocks. But do make sure if you have limited length on that foam roller, that foam roller is touching your tailbone. When your knees bent, feet wide, you're going to slosh it from side to side. So if you do not have a foam roller, a rolled up beach towel, make a log, and wrap a beach towel around this broomstick or something. Pool noodle will work. It's a solid core pool noodle. you don't have anything, then just park your butt on the ground and windshield wipe your knees side to side. If you're doing it without a foam roller, park your butt down on the floor and you just windshield wipe from side to side. Everybody's massaging around that sacrum. Sacrum's that triangular shaped bone at the base of the spine. Of that tramp stamp G-string region. That's what you want to be massaging. So all the muscles that attach to this bony area, those butt muscles begin to relax. Your backside spreads out. And then come to neutral. Make sure that backside is really well spread out. Your head, your shoulders, everything is supported. Arms open out to the sides. You're going to toe heel, your feet together with your knees open up like a butterfly. And my butterfly kind of rocks a little bit from side to side, so I try to stabilize it with my arms stretched out into a T. And if it feels good for you, you can rock from side to side. If you're lying flat down on the floor, you're just doing this lying down flat down on the floor. If you're lying down flat on the floor, you can actually put your hands on the tops of your thighs, right here, both hands at the same time. Push your thighs away from you. And maybe push the right knee and then the left knee. And set your hips rocking as you rock the boat side to side and also kind of twist. You're getting a nice little gentle inner thigh stretch, and you are definitely massaging around the sacrum to release your hips and pelvis, low back. And you're going to pick a side and roll over off onto your side. And then continue rolling on over and sit up. All right. Foam roller, if you got it, is going to go underneath your butt. So I like to get into position by lying down first and then doing my pelvic thrust and slide that foam roller underneath my booty butt. If all you have are blocks, you can slide blocks underneath your booty butt. And then you can put your tennis balls on top of those blocks right there in the butt muscle underneath your butts. If you're on the foam roller, you can hold on to the ends of the foam roller and bring your knees in. If you're on the tennis balls, you can try bringing your knees in if that works for you, if you like it hard. And swing it from side to side. And you can play around with helicoptering your legs. Doing your best synchronized swimming water ballet moves. Play around with it. Take a nice long walk, whatever feels good. This can be done on tennis balls too, if you really want deep tissue pinpoint pressure. Whatever you choose to do though, especially as you swing your legs away from your chest, think about keeping your tummy pulled in so that you don't overarch your lower back. If when you're doing this, your leg, one or the other, kind of clicks or twangs, sometimes people get a little hitch like deep inside the front of their hip. And it's like the tendon, the ligaments are twanging across a bone protrusion inside the leg. It's kind of an odd click or clunk. Think about changing the orientation of the leg. Let me get this one out of the way. So this is my right leg in the air. I can have my leg turned out. I can have my leg turned in. By turning out or turning in, you change the orientation of that fiber. It might not catch on the hip. So you can swing that leg all the way around, full range of motion, and not get a click if you have the foot turned in or turned out. Or just turned at that right angle, whatever angle was best for you. You can move that whole leg around with nothing clicking. So if you're one of those people, play around with finding the angle that keeps your thigh from catching. And of course, I'm just talking and having you do this stuff to spend a little bit more time here, kill time, so those muscles get a chance to really let go. And then set your feet down. And breathe. I'm on a foam roller, so I'm going to push the foam roller down towards my heels. If you're on tennis balls, you're just going to reach in and pull those tennis balls out. So, belly pulls in. I'm trying to roll or adhere my lower back and my butt to the floor. I'm applying a sticker and I don't want any air bubbles. And just take a moment and feel all the sensations. And breathe. And turn your toes in, let your knees lean together. Toes turn in, knees lean together. Welcome that right knee into your chest. Just hold around the shin, around the knee, and ease that knee in a little closer to your chest. If you have knees that don't bend, you hold on to the back side of the thigh. Ease that knee in closer to your chest. And breathe. Breathe into your back ribs. We haven't gone there yet. Guess where we're going next. Find those back ribs. Breathe into them. Let your shoulders melt away from your ears. Maybe shake your head no. Wiggle your jaw. So yeah, we could be doing this move as a hip stretch, but we're doing it as a breathing exercise. Trying to stretch, breathe into those back ribs. And then release that right foot down. And feel your belly rumble and everything squish and move around in there as everything kind of resettles into place. Take a nice deep belly breath. And then bring that other knee into your chest. Then maybe hold on to the back side of the thigh or around the shin and knee. And just let the weight of your arms be enough. And turn your attention inward and breathe into those back ribs. Challenge yourself to focus your attention, your breath, into those back ribs, despite what your other mind, the other voices in your head, as weird as that sounds, the ego or whatever it is telling you to ratchet that knee into your chest and stretch your hip out. No. Back ribs. Breathe into your back ribs. You know, those muscles are going to let go regardless of what you're thinking about, right? It's just the body position doing it to you. But putting your awareness there just makes it a much more interesting experience. And you know where we're going next. So go ahead, release that left foot. And you're going to roll over onto your side. And that foam roller is now going to go up in your armpits. Actually, we'll go side ribs. Side ribs. So that bra band wrapped around, making contact with that foam roller. If you're not wearing a bra, it's nipple line, lining up with the foam roller. If you don't have a foam roller, a block with a tennis ball and a pillow, or just a pillow over a block, or maybe just the edge. That's quite intense, but you might be into that underneath those side ribs. So it's that bra band that you want to be underneath. And after 2 or 3 breaths, then I just talk to fill space. You're going to rock front to back. And turn your attention inward. So that breath awareness in your back ribs, can you wrap it around into your side ribs? And then you're going to get up into the armpit. Now the armpit's ready for it. The armpit over that foam roller, or block, ball, pillow on top. And you want to get into that flap meat, the stuff that hangs out of the side of your bra, the back rim of your armpit. Noticing I'm cradling my head in the palm of my hand. This is giving me a little bit of a wrist stretch. So if you have wrist issues, let your head be really heavy in the palm of your hand, and you can get a little bit of a wrist stretch as you do this. And then after you've massaged that armpit, you're going to push the foam roller up halfway towards the elbow, halfway to the elbow. And then you can play around with rocking chest down, chest up. You can have your head in the palm of your hand, or your head on your arm. Put your head on your arm, you're kind of massaging that arm top and bottom at the same time. And then eventually going all the way to the tip of the elbow. All the way to the tip of the elbow. With it underneath the tip of your elbow, you can take me to the gun show. Curl and uncurl. Don't forget to turn the wrist one way then the other. So you get a little bit of a wrist stretch. Make a fist, why not? Really stretch some of those nerves right down your arm. And then release. And now you get to do that whole thing on the other side. Foam roller in the bra band region or nipple line. Between the 5th and 6th rib, you know that anatomy. Shoulders down away from your ears, stabilizing, rocking to and fro, or settling in, rocking to and fro. I really don't care what you're doing with your legs as long as you're comfortable. So the focus is not the legs for this activity. Try to find your breath. Breathing into your back ribs, breathing into your side ribs. Notice how you can already take much bigger breaths after having done just one side. And hopefully you've had 4, 5, 6 breaths. And everything has started to release. Foam roller goes up into the armpit. I was thinking I'll probably be doing yoga online around Halloween. I might want to get me a bat wing something or other to practice my yoga in. I have to think of a bat or a Halloween yoga outfit. All right, so when you're done massaging your bat wings, that's why I thought of that. You're going to move that foam roller up halfway between the elbow and the armpit. Again, you can cradle your head in the palm of your hand and get a little bit of a wrist stretch. Or you can put your head on your arm and massage that arm top and bottom simultaneously. And if your hand is dangling, you can play around with wiggling your fingers. So the nerves that control your fingers originate in your neck, and they pass through the shoulder, and they travel down your arm all the way to your fingertips. So you're really getting a good nerve stretch here, as well as the massage. And then move that foam roller just above the elbow. That's the lowest portion of the upper arm, just above the elbow. And again, you can show me your muscles. Show me some sick snake moves. Let this be a wrist and finger stretch thing too. All right. And when you're done with that, don't hurt nobody. When you're done with that, all the way down to our fingers, I'm doing the whole thing tonight. Put your forearms, the shins of your arms, your arm shins on the foam roller and iron it out. And palms can be up, palms can be down, elbows can be wide, elbows can be narrow. If all you have are tennis balls, you can get creative. And you might just do one arm at a time. So this can be done with a tennis ball. A little more rascally, but it's possible. I don't think I would be coordinated to do both arms enough. Coordinated enough to do both arms at the same time. I can barely even say it, let alone do it. So if you're doing tennis ball, I can only manage to do one arm at a time. But if you're doing foam roller, get the 2-for-1 special. Do both legs, both arms at the same time. Massage the shins of your arms. And if your hands are free, free those hands. Gesticulate. Gesticulate as you perambulate up and down your arms. And then, when you've had enough of that, it's time to lie down. Get that spot in between your shoulder blades and at the base of your skull. Head to toe tonight, or toe to head tonight. All right, again, foam roller. Prepare to lie upon it. So if you do not have a foam roller, I'll show you how to do something similar with a block in just a moment. But if you got a foam roller, this is a foam roller class, I'm going to put you up first. So you're on a foam roller, you're going to scooch back, get your bottom all the way up on it, and keep on inchworming until the base of your skull hooks to the edge of the foam roller. You got to get your hair up out of the way so that the base of your skull, the nape of your neck, hooks onto the edge of that foam roller. And you park your feet, you lift your hips up with traction a little bit. Really make sure it wedges in at the base of your skull. If your hips are hanging off the foam roller, then you support your hips on some blocks. You've got a short foam roller, have some blocks underneath your butt. So your spine's more or less all at one level. If you do not have a foam roller, you can take a yoga block, preferably a foamy one, not a wooden one. You want a foamy one, not a wooden one. And you take that edge of the block and wedge it in at the base of your skull. And you can angle it one way or the other. One way or the other will wedge in there, depending on the shape of your neck and skull. You can get the edge, the corner edge of that foam roller into the base of your skull. And I may be able to rock around a little bit and kind of do a small nod. You can definitely get some intensity at the base of your skull with just the corner of a block. If you've got the foam roller in there, you can turn your head side to side. Shake your head no. It's a little challenging to shake your head no on a foam roller, but it is possible depending on how dense the foam of that foam roller is. Wiggle your jaw. Breathe. Yawn. All right, you might have fallen in love with this. And if you're already half passed out, just stay here. If you're on the block, you're probably just going to stay here. If you're on the block, leave it there as best you can. And I'm sorry, I should have told you about this earlier. Grab those tennis balls. You might be able to wedge those tennis balls in between your shoulder blades. So then you have 3 points of contact, the base of your skull and those 2 tennis balls just inside the shoulder blades. That might feel pretty good. If you're up on a foam roller, though, you have options as well. If you're up on a foam roller and it's at the base of your skull, well then you inch off the end of that foam roller a little bit more. So the edge of the foam roller now makes contact a little bit lower down on your neck. And you catch your head on a block. Put a block underneath your head or support your head like you're doing sit-ups. Depends on how much work you want to do. But you support your head on something. Don't just let it fall off. And you can rock a little bit from side to side, and you can inchworm, and you can crawl down your neck. Crawl the head a little further off the end of that foam roller. And play around with it. Bring all the way in between those shoulder blades if that appeals to you. And if you're one of those people with a head on a block, you might consider pulling that block out or turning the block down to a lower level so weight shifts onto those tennis balls into a slightly different spot. And you're just going to work in between the shoulder blades. Eventually maybe getting to the point where you can slosh your chest from side to side. You do want to stay away from that bra band. You want to stay away from the lowest ribs. Stay off your lower ribs. So if you travel that far down, then you're going to have to pick yourself up and roll yourself off. And maybe you're done. Come on down. So work your way from the base of your skull all the way down to like the top of your bra band. And then come off of it. And once you're off of it, just be off of it. Knees bent, feet flat. Notice how much of it is on the ground. A whole lot of your back is on the ground. If you really like this sensation of melding onto the earth, you might just ease that couch cushion or the foam roller or blocks or whatever you can manage, small dog, child, underneath your knees, and just melt into the ground. Choose your own adventure. If you are not quite yawning yet, if you're not sleeping on me yet, you have the option of knocking yourself out by putting that tennis ball at the base of your skull, very top of your neck. There is an acupressure point there for insomnia. Not to give insomnia to you, but to take it away. Settling in and breathe.
The heck are you doing?
And then slowly make your way over onto your right side.
It's not only you.
It's only me. Yes, we're at the end. All right. You're going to make your way up to sitting, and so am I. And we'll finish with hands together at the heart.
Hi,
Want to
Brandon.
sit? Hi, this is Brandon. I think it's time for me to go in the house. Shoulders back and down, chest lifted. Namaste, everybody. Have a wonderful night.